What is up, my people? Welcome back to video number 3 of A Leader Worth Following. We're going to hop right into it. I'm super excited. This is going to be a 3-part series within our overall series of A Leader Worth Following. And we're going to be going over 3 out of the 5 levels of leadership from John C. Maxwell's book, 5 Levels of Leadership. The first week is very important to get and understand, or the first video is very important to get and understand as we get into the other levels. We're only going to cover 3. If you'd like to go out on your own and actually purchase the book, or maybe you have a subscription where you can read the book, I'd highly encourage it. John C. Maxwell is an amazing teacher in the world of leadership, specific, not just Christian leadership, but leadership in general. He's helped a lot of people, and he has many words of wisdom, all based on the Word of God. So go ahead and check the book out. But I kind of want to put this in the light of us as leaders within the church, and I'm going to be specific on that type of language. So I want to go through 3 levels, as I said. The first level, and that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, and that is level 1, which is positional leadership. Positional leadership. So level 1, positional leader, I want to hop right into it. To preface this, as we go through these 3 videos, I want to give you a few things to hold in your back pocket and to remember as you learn each level of leadership. Number 1, always build on the previous level. You can never forget previous levels as you continue to grow. So just because you learn what level 1 is, doesn't mean you can give up on level 1 when you go to level 2, or you can stop developing it. You need to build one after another, one on top of another, rather. You can't forget the previous level. Leadership is dynamic. You can be leading people at different levels. As you learn these different levels, you're going to understand as a leader, you're going to have some people that are with you on level 1. You're going to have some people that are with you on level 3, but you need to identify where they are at with you so you can grow them in their levels. Number 3, the higher you go, the easier it becomes to lead. Number 4, there are no shortcuts. There's no way around. There's no skipping from level 1 to level 4 to level 1 to level 5. You need to do these one at another. You can't go from 1 to 3. It's going to happen building on top one of another. Number 5, moving up takes time. Catch this, but moving down in levels can happen quickly. Number 6, the higher you go, the greater the returns. Number 7, moving to the next level always requires growth, whether that is personal or that is professional. Not getting to the next level limits you and your team. That's number 8. Number 9, you rarely stay at the same level when you change position or organization. So if you're a person that's hopped into leadership and you keep bouncing between organization, keep bouncing between department, keep bouncing between what you want to give your time to or who you want to become, most often, like always, you're going to lose all of whatever levels you have gained to that point within the levels you will learn. Whether you went to level 3, you're not going to be able to pick up a new position or organization and start at level 3. You're going to have to start back at level 1. So those decisions need to be very prayerful because you will lose momentum in that. Number 10, you cannot climb levels alone. This is not meant to be done alone. This is meant to be done with other people, with leaders, mentors, friends, family, peers, people who can push you to go and increase your relationships to the next level so you can become the highest level of leadership that Jesus has purposed you to be. Starting off with level 1, which is positional leadership. Leadership traditionally begins with position. As someone joins the army, they enlist in the army. They go from becoming just a recruit to somebody who is working to earn the rank of private. In the army, you can see there's rank after rank after rank. And as they achieve those ranks, they have authority over the rank that's below them. And this is generally where our form of leadership in life, no matter what it is going to begin with. It's going to begin with some type of positional rank or positional leadership. But we must understand that real influence must be developed upon that foundation. What does that mean? It means that positional leadership is not going to be where you stay. Positional leadership cannot be someone you park and say, because I have a position, I have made it. There was a time where as a society, people really heavily relied on a position to lead. But in most industrialized nations, those days are far gone. Position is not the only thing you need. Matter of fact, position is more of something we should think of like this. Position is what gives you a chance to be a leader. It gets you through the front door. Position is usually, honestly, position comes with very little power, except in systems where not listening to that position might give very severe penalties. So, realistically, in the form of ministry, yes, there is an ultimate penalty that could come from not listening, and that's in the life to come. Like maybe you don't receive counsel, maybe you're not instructable or teachable, and maybe you don't heed instruction, and yes, you might go to hell because of it. But in this life that we live right now, when we're trying to lead people from this place of love and care and servant-hearted leadership, what you'll find is there is not a dire consequence that comes with not listening to, in terms of the fact, like, you can't fire them. You can't get rid of them. Right? What happens is we have to just have people who are willing to lead or learn from our leadership outside of the fact that, or outside of just our position. Our position might carry a little bit of power, but it doesn't carry enough power that they're going to just listen to everything you say because you carry the title or because you carry a position within a church, within a business, whatever it may be. So we need to learn how do we take this thing, which is positional leadership. What are the good things about it? Because obviously it's very easy to have misconceptions about it. And what are the bad things about it? We have all met somebody who has misused positional leadership, and none of us have liked them. We all know somebody who just did everything to get that title. They got that title, and now they use it to promote themselves. They use it for their own benefit. They shame others. No one likes being led by them. They are not a leader that is worth following because they just care so much about that title and position. And title and position is not bad. It is something that all of us are going to be given in some way, shape, or form. But it's understanding that that isn't the end point of our leadership. It's the start point of our leadership, and we must handle it with respect. And so I want to get into some of the upsides that come with positional leadership, because most of you, if you're watching this video, if you're here today, you have some type of position that has been given to you, and you are being trained on that position. If you're watching this today, you are a positional leader. That is not a negative thing that you are in position as a leader. It's just the lowest level of leadership, and it's time to get you to grow up and mature in your levels. But in order to do that, we got to understand what the benefits of this side of leadership is, and let's hop right into it. Leadership position equals leadership potential. Many make the mistake of believing that position means they have arrived, although it doesn't. It also doesn't mean that position itself is bad. If you have been asked to be in a position, it actually means a few good things. The first of which being that a person in authority has appointed you to be a leader. What does that mean? It means that somebody believes in the potential of who you are as a leader. They have seen your gifts, your talents, abilities, and they have ascertained that you should begin this leadership journey because you have the potential of what it takes to become this idea of a world-class or an amazing leader. So you should take joy in that. Somebody was prayerful in a decision that has allowed me to get to this place where I carry a position. You have taken a seat at what we would call the leadership game. You have been given some level of opportunity to express your opinion and to make decisions by somebody of authority. And that is a great thing. That is an amazing thing, especially in the kingdom of God. God has elevated you to the level of this position because he believes in you. And that alone should be a great benefit for you. Just as you think of this, it's not all negative. You have been brought here for a purpose and a reason. It's because you are called to do this. You have been pulled out to do this. You have been singled out because of your abilities, gifts, and talents that God has given you. And you should take that as an opportunity to seize. Your new goal as a positional leader is not to be perfect. But your new goal is not, and it's also not to flaunt your authority that you have been given. but rather to prove yourself as a leader, to your team, and most importantly, to God. You should show why you deserve to have the position you received. And that's important. Like we get this, and now that we have this ability, we have these people who've looked to us and have seen the goodness and the gifts and the talents in us, and we should use that to bring God glory in it. Number 2 of an upside of positional leadership. Leadership position equals authority that is recognized. When an individual receives a position or a title, some level of authority or power usually comes with it. Power is limited, but it's power nonetheless. But here's the thing. It's really not a coincidence that the power is limited. Jesus says this in Luke chapter 10, verse 16, the one who is faithful in the very little thing is also faithful in much. And the one who is unrighteous in a very little thing is also unrighteous in much. God wants to see, your leaders want to see what you can do with this very limited or very little amount of authority, because as you grow and as you steward it properly, you will grow in the amount that God can give you and that your leaders can trust you with. And so it's that saying, right? Is that if you're faithful with a little, then you'll have much. In the Infantryman's Journal of 1954, it was quoted as saying this: "No man is a leader until his appointment is ratified in the minds and the hearts of his men." Listen, when you join this journey, you will receive authority, and that authority is little as a positional leader, but it's meant to be something we steward and take care of, so that God and so that leaders can add more to it. But it has to come through that proving of responsibility with that little bit of authority. And you can see that people who abuse that a little bit they're given, they never grow. They never go further. People don't want to be led by them. As well as within that, the authority that you have received with this, the authority you do get from a position, must be used with wisdom. And there's some unwise ways to use it. I've touched on a few of them as we talked through this first point, but just to recap some unwise things, it has not been given to yell at people. You don't receive authority, especially as a leader in the church, so that you can tell people where they can and cannot go in the church. Every single second you see them, you're just screaming at them. You do this, you do that. You sit down when I tell you. That's not why we've been given position. We haven't been given position to demand respect. We haven't been given position so that we can grow our own fame. And we shouldn't use our position as a leader as a false perspective of arriving or making it. But some ways we can use this with wisdom, our authority with wisdom, is to use our authority to advance others, to use our authority to advance the team, to use our authority not as something that we overuse or we think is greater than it is, but that we can value in the little dose that we received it, and it will be built upon. Number 3, leadership position equals an invitation to grow. Not just an invitation, but even an expectation to grow. In Luke chapter 12, verse 48, it says, "For everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And to whom they have entrusted much, of him they will ask all the more." That is the second part of that verse. Ultimately, we can see that with much power or with much authority or with any authority is going to come a level of responsibility. And there becomes an invitation on your life as you step into a position to grow. That's why you're here today. That's why you're listening to this video right now, is because when you joined a leadership position, you are invited to begin growing, and you can never stop. I want you to think about a swamp. What is a swamp? Around a swamp, well, a swamp is stagnant water. It's not moving. There's very little life. Why is there little life? There's low oxygen. They stink. They reek. No one wants to go swimming in a swamp. No one wants to grow their crops around a swamp. A swamp is nasty, and it's very hard to have. You look at it and you don't just see life. You see smelly, stinky, oftentimes rotty, muddy, murky water. Now, that water is stagnant. It's not moving. But let's look at a river. Along the sides of a riverbank, what do you see? You see life. You see birds. You see chirp. You see all this beauty You see trees that are firmly standing on the riverside. You see fish. It's just breathed with life. The water's more clear. It's just inviting. Why? Because moving water, things that never stop moving, things that never stop going bring life, but things that stay still bring death. And I want you to remember that this is a swamp versus a river moment. In leadership, we can never be swamps. We must always be rivers. We got to keep flowing. We got to keep growing. We can never quit. And when you received a position and you being here listening to this today, it's because as you've received that position, you've been given an invitation to grow with an expectation that you will grow and that you'll never stop no matter what level you reach. Another thing, that leadership position, and this has to be the most important thing right here. This has to be the most encouraging thing right here. Leadership position equals a shapeable future. Wow. A leader who has been given position gets to decide the type of leader they want to be. Did you know that? It's up to you. It's up to you what type of leader you want to be. And when you receive a position, you get the ability to shape the type of leader do you want to be. What impact will you leave as a leader? Who will be changed because of your leadership? What will be built because you have been given this position? It's important to remember a leadership role or position may be defined, but the leader themselves is not defined. Listen, you've received, when you come into a position, you receive a description of what it's going to be, of what you're going to do, of the expectations that you're called to reach, right? You become a part of a higher standard. When you become a leader on the youth team as a part of His Tabernacle Church as an example, when you become a leader on that team, when you become a part of Upward Youth, there are expectations to me. There are deadlines to me. There are time requirements. There is a level of respect and honor that comes with claiming to be an upper leader. There's a level of authority, but none of those things define who you will be as a leader. They are standards to live up to, expectations to achieve. They can even certain circumstances are demanded if you want to remain, but none of them define who you are as a leader. What impact you will make is extremely important. Extremely important to who? To you. What kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be one that's remembered as only being a level 1 leader? That the only time you were able to lead in any capacity was because someone gave you the ability to yell at somebody, which isn't even what it is. But is that how you want to be remembered? As the most unliked, the most unloved, the most uncompassionate? No. You want to be remembered as somebody who makes a difference, I'm sure. That's why you're here today. Who do you want to raise? What do you want to do? And what do you want to build? And that is up to you. And there's a definition of what it means to be in your position, but there is no definition as to who you can become as a leader. And that's what position allows you. It gives you that doorway into that life. But there are downsides that come with a position first style leadership. What do I mean by that? As much as there is an upside to gaining a position, if you misuse it in these ways, there is a downside. There's a downside. And so I want to talk about some of the potential downsides if you live as a positional leader, as your identity, if you live within level 1, if this is who you see yourself as this is the pinnacle of what you think leadership is, then here are going to be some downsides, and maybe you've experienced them. Number 1, leadership position is often misleading. A position or title can become someone's personal identity, one that people see and expect. But unfortunately, the problem with becoming somebody who is simply made positional leadership their identity is that a position or title often promises more than it can deliver. Listen, there is a lot of promises that are made in this life. And when you become a part of a position, there are a lot of promises that come with accepting that position in terms of what people will receive from you accepting that position. And I don't want to lose you, but as you become a part of a position, there is a level and an expectation of what it will provide. And there will be moments that a leader will not fulfill those expectations. And if your whole identity is wrapped up in the fact that you have a position and that because of this, you have to be perfect and all of these things, when you do fail, you're going to feel crushed. And you need to know that's not where your identity comes from. But positional leadership can mislead you in that direction to think that that is your identity. And others expect that of you. Like they will identify you as a leader to whatever department or capacity you're in. And that is important to know that if you always wrap up your life and their expectation and their identification of you, you're going to fail because you will fail. And when those failures come, if that has become your whole persona, you're going to be devastated. You're going to be devastated. You need to know first that you're a child of God, that you're here, and that you've begun this journey, and that it's not the end, it's the start. Number two, the downside of positional leaders is positional leaders rely on their position to lead, and that often devalues people. Their position rather becomes to advance themselves than others. They do not care about the person that they are leading more than the influence that comes along with their title to lead effectively. They make others feel lesser because of their position. How many times have you seen that in leadership? Somebody makes themselves look higher and mightier and more important than another person because they carry position. They belittle with it and they use it to their advantage, but others' disadvantage. Positional leaders feed on politics. And I'm not just talking about Democrat and Republic. I'm talking about the politics that come within leadership. They focus on control over contribution. That's so good. And what does that do? That stunts growth. Because why? They don't want people to grow. Because if people grow, they might take over their position, political. And so what do? They stunt other people's growth. Who does that benefit? Nobody. Does that benefit the team? Absolutely not. Does that benefit the kingdom of God? Certainly not. But when politics get involved, it's because somebody values that position as their identity. They've been misled to think that that means that they have this level of authority. And if they lose this level of authority, they'll have none because they've wrapped everything into a title, not just on who they are as a leader, but in the title of what they've been given. And so when someone threatens to potentially take that title from them as they see it, they try to control them. I see this all the time within management. You know, one thing that I found being in the quick service food industry is that a lot of managers would do this thing where they would learn how to do everything in the store, but they would never teach anyone else. Why? Because if they taught someone else, they'd be afraid that that person would become the manager. Little did they know, if they had the ability to teach someone else how to do everything they did, they just became the most valuable asset on the team because not only can they do it, but they can teach other people to do it. They would have increased in their level as a leader, but instead, because they got political, they never advanced and often lost their own position. So I want you to remember that. Stay away from the politics. And the way you do that is do not become a leader that is a positional leader, that is position first leader, that identifies as my position is who I am as a leader. They often, somebody who feeds in this layer of politics often cares about the perception of what people think about them over the reality of who they are. And that's why they're, a certain way around people who are important. And then when they're around someone who they don't deem as important, they act completely different, right? Like they're willing to set up, tear down, be the best in the world when someone who's over them is around. And then as soon as that oversight leaves, all of a sudden they look down, they don't want to touch anything. They don't want to help anything. They don't want to do anything. Why? Because it's about the perception, not about the reality. People who are positional leaders place rights over responsibility. They place their rights over their responsibilities. Inevitably, positional leaders begin to expect to be served. They prioritize serving. They prioritize this over serving people. They're self-serving. They're not servant leaders. Inevitably, this happens. If you become a positional leader, like this is where you wrap your identity in, or this is where you park yourself and you don't grow from here. You will start to see your position as everything, and it will cause you to be someone who wants to be served, not to serve others. Positional leadership is lonely. In a world that is political and more on self-serving, it will become a lonely journey as a leader if you live in that world. It separates you from others, and it places people in a place where they believe they are higher than others. And I like to say it like this: they place themselves on a hilltop all alone, high above others, but with no one next to them. And that is a lonely life of leadership. So level 1, positional leader. It's an entryway, but it's not where you stay. And it's never what you should identify with. So I want you guys to stay tuned for the next video where we're going to go a little bit deeper and we're going to teach you level 2. And we really want you to grow from level 1 to level 2. And oftentimes, as you become a leader, most people sit and park. Many people sit and park right here at level 1 and they never grow. Level 1 has its benefits, but if this becomes the type of leader you are, the downsides far outweigh the benefits, and it will stunt your growth as a leader and an effective leader who will produce. So you're going to have your quiz that goes along with this video, link in the description. One of those things that you're going to be asked is to answer a short question on who you'd like to be as a leader in 80 years, who you'd like to be recognized as. What do you want people to think of you as a leader in 80 years? And I really want you to take your time on that and really think, who do I want to be remembered as a leader in 80 years from now? What's the type of leader I want to be? It can get easy when you get a position to be misled in thinking that you have arrived. But it's important to know that let's put this journey in a perspective. When it's all said and done, you don't want to be remembered as a positional leader, but you want to be remembered as a leader who led with a genuine heart to serve the people. So what does that look like in your life? Go ahead, fill out that quiz, and we'll see you in the next video.